and welcome to Business Matters, the show about people behind businesses that help make Tacoma a great place to live and work. I'm your host, Mike Wark, and today we're back with a fresh, updated look to the show. We'll visit with one of the owners of Parable Tacoma on McKinley Avenue on the east side, a community gathering space that's a business that features a range of boutique goods. And Andrew Fry returns with advice on COVID recovery for small businesses. With me now is Carol Wolfe, Community and Economic Development Division Manager with the City of Tacoma. Welcome, Carol.
It's good to be here. Thank you.
And how are you doing?
You know, I'm doing okay. It's fun to be out in public, and it's fun to be out and talking about Tacoma.
Well, I'm glad you talk about being out because this is our first show on Business Matters since the pandemic began. And I can't think of a better guest than you, Carol, because from your role with City Economic Development, you've observed the impact of COVID and the resiliency of these business owners coming out of it. Mm-hmm. So I'm really looking forward to what you have to share with us. But let's start with the resiliency. And is the right word grit of our entrepreneurs?
I would say so. I'm a proud wearer of the term Grit City Tacoma, and I can say that during the pandemic that was proven to us in spades. It started in March, in 2019 or 2020? It's hard to even have the dates. Yeah. And from that moment on, our business community felt it right away. Our small business community
Especially
felt
the small businesses.
They felt it right away. They were retail, they were mom and pops, and the shutdown, some of the emergency orders. And
all of a sudden everything shut off. And you're talking really small businesses was a part of your focus, like 5 employees?
Our focus, what I work for in the city's Community and Economic Development Department is our small business. And for us, that generally means 15 or less, but that sweet spot of where we really have relationships and where we worked really hard for stabilization and resiliency during COVID was businesses that had 5 or less full-time equivalent employees, because they were the ones that really seemed to have the hardest hit. They weren't as prepared, and they didn't have as many resources as some of our larger businesses
And not having those resources meant that these big federal programs, it was hard for them to tap into them. And so you really help support those.
Well, what was great, what the City of Tacoma does is we know that we're not always the provider for everything, but oftentimes we're the first door that people go through. So when it hit, we immediately tried to figure out what are some of the state and federal programs and some of the partners. The county was an excellent partner. We have the Office of Minority Business Development Agency, which is federally funded at the city. They were a huge partner. The Small Business Administration was a big partner. We found out immediately who those key contacts were and how to help our small businesses work through them to get access to the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL loans. And we would refer them to those programs as quickly as possible. And then we worked to kind of pivot and kind of reform some of our tools so that they could be more flexible and serve some of the small businesses.
So what's so important about that is that if you're a bigger business and you have accountants that are used to doing this and practices, you could easily take advantage of these federal programs. We've heard the names of CARES, HERF, all those kinds of things, but the small business people weren't set up to do that. So you had to work to find ways to help them tap into that support.
Exactly, and it was really eye-opening for us to realize that so many of our really successful small business and entrepreneurs, I get to work in our business districts where a lot of the businesses that people think about when they think of Tacoma, right? And they're very successful, but they're not necessarily accountants, and they haven't had to create some of the documents that were required for some of the federal and state loans. And so, yes, what we found out is that we had to really help support them in some financial literacy and even sometimes some credit literacy and credit repair so that they could take advantage of those resources, but also prepare themselves to be able to grow and take advantage, because quite honestly, quite a few new markets have opened up as a result of COVID, and people have needed to expand and grow and change their business models.
Let's talk about that in a minute. I want to go back to this accounting, this bureaucracy piece, which sounds boring, but it was survival for these businesses.
Exactly. So we focused on stabilization of our business community in the beginning.
And that's important because previously the city was looking at bringing people in. Your resources went towards recruiting businesses in, and you just turned around and said, no, we got to take care of our people we have.
Exactly. So normally our performance is measured on growing businesses or recruiting new businesses in. we had to immediately pivot to stabilize and help stop the bleeding of the businesses that were already here. So we took some of our existing loan programs and technical assistance programs that were meant to grow and expand business and said, let's get those out the door.
And made them accessible. You
made them accessible.
You tailored the guidelines so that it was easier for these small businesses to tap into them.
Definitely. So we have a great team, and Deirdre Patterson and Will Suarez on our team. They looked at our underwriting standards for some of the criteria for how we normally get money out the door for loans, and they looked at them, they said, we're going to change these and simplify them, and as well as speed up the time frame by which we can approve. And so during this 2.5 years or 2 years, that COVID was going, we were able to process, we had about a little over 1,500 applications for funds.
Right.
We were able to fund about 450 small businesses and some nonprofits, and get about $7 million out the door.
$7 million.
$7 million.
So this is, I love this story. It makes me proud to be part of a city that was able to do that kind of a pivot, to take care of its small business people.
And that doesn't even speak to some of the partnerships we had. So with our Office of the Minority Business Development Agency, they were able to get about a little over $4 million out to 45 businesses that were minority and women owned. And that's huge because we know sometimes our minority businesses don't have the same access to capital. And so we partnered with them. Also, the county was a great partner with some of their federal dollars. And a lot of people came to us that might not have been in the city of Tacoma proper. We were able to refer them to some of their programs and vice versa. And I think even though it wasn't perfect and there was a lot of businesses, we know they're struggling. You can see that. But we were able to help, 450, 500 businesses in $15,000 increments, $25,000 increments, and it helped stabilize them to get through this.
And that number is significant. And part of your vetting probably had to do with these businesses really need our help. These other businesses, we know they've got supports. They're going to be okay. But you really, am I right in that?
Yes, because when the federal money first came out, what people hear is the PPP or the EIDL, EIDL. A lot of those loan programs assume that people had like strong banking relationships, and they assumed they had a back office with accountants, and they had balance sheets and profit and loss statements. Well, a lot of our small businesses, they might have them, but it takes a while. Maybe they don't have one, or they have 2 or 3 banks, and some of them finance their businesses all on their own.
Right. So, it's really
those
important
products
you were
weren't really
able to-
available.
Yeah. And partnerships are a big part of this. You leveraging those partnerships, those community-based organizations that you mentioned, were critical.
Well, and the Chamber, a huge partner with us, and their program SpaceWorks. SpaceWorks was a program, and they're used to being nimble and creative economy. So they partner with us to form like new loan programs, but also to help us get deeper into the community, because we like to think we have relationships, but we know we're still government, right?
So that's just a great story of leveraging, connecting. It's so cool that you were a part of that. But I'm wondering, as we end near the end of our segment, if you can give me an example of a business.
Oh, gosh. Okay, so right now we're sitting in the Hilltop, and one of my favorite businesses is Quickie II, and they're plant-based, one of the original plant-based vegan restaurants. And they've been talking about expanding a little bit over time, but during COVID, it knocked them back on their heels, right? Because all of a sudden things are shut down. So we were working with them to start to bring their point of sales online. A lot of businesses hadn't converted to online sales,
And so
right?
you leverage partnerships to help them do that? Like
The SBA,
Yeah.
so Jennifer S. Tucker from the SBA came down, our Office of Minority Business Development Agency came in,
surrounded this business.
surrounded them, we got them online, we got them doing sales they actually had to shut down.
They had to shut down. You were so successful, they had to shut down their
They
online.
could not handle
they
the
could
orders.
Keep up with the orders.
Yeah.
Said, please wait, we'll get to you soon.
And also like on 6th Avenue and in the Hilltop, you'll see some businesses, they created temporary like windows to do curbside sales. A lot of those restaurants realized their business model, and they're making better sales doing continuing to have curbside sales. So these are now permanent windows. They have permanent pickup windows. Beefy's Hamburgers on 6th Avenue, MSM Deli on 6th Avenue.
So there's an evolution. Now they've learned that people want to come and get the food, or they want to eat outside, and this is going to be permanent.
This is permanent. They've reduced their overhead, they're increasing sales, reducing costs, and so there are some silver linings that's come out of that, and that's where we're focused on 2022.
So this is just a great story, Carol. I'm so glad you're here doing what you do. Any advice or anything you're looking forward to as we look to the future now?
I'm really looking forward to so many of our small businesses. There was quite a few people that actually opened up new businesses during the pandemic.
Oh.
And also a lot of our business districts, because people aren't going back to large office space, they're continuing to work at home. Our business districts are really experiencing a lot more feet on the street and opportunities.
Right?
Yeah.
That is so cool.
So I'm looking forward to working in districts maybe that have been sleepy for a while, but they're getting ready to really burst. And we have expansions. The Ferd Seed went from Proctor and then expanded into South Tacoma during the pandemic. So working with those type of entrepreneurs, helping people reach new markets, we're just really excited.
I understand Parable is an example of a business that started during the pandemic and is starting to take off in a
And I think they're coming here next,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
Parable
they're
in
gonna be a guest on
McKinley,
the show, yes.
one of our business districts that's totally up and coming, and they were able actually to take advantage of some of the new financing products that we created during the pandemic with our partner SpaceWorks, and I hope they'll get to share that story because that's enabled them to go from an in-home business to a brick-and-mortar business on the east side.
Incredible story. Carol, thank you for sharing and providing some great insight into what's happened during the pandemic to support businesses and some silver linings to take us out and look forward to.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful to be one of the first folks here on Business Matters, and I'm glad we're back in business.
Coming up next, Andrew Fry and getting your business back on a financial track to success. The past few years of the pandemic challenged businesses large and small. On this episode of Tacoma Means Business, Andrew Fry provides 5 tips on recovery that may help your business get back in the game.
Hi, I'm Andrew Fry, and I'm back. Yeah, it's been a few years since I've been able to do any of the Tacoma Means Business segments, but we're all in the same boat, right? So what I thought I'd do, at least off the top, is talk a little bit about what you might consider as a small business in terms of rebuilding your business, trying to get back in the game, because a lot of us were knocked out. The first thing you do is assess the damage. After any kind of disaster, you need to go in and have to take a hard look, as painful as it might be, what kind of financial damage has been done over the last few years. But that's okay, we're gonna take that positive attitude about how do we build it all back. So after you've done that, as I always say, pull out the business plan. It's time to revamp that living document and take a look at it in sort of the new order of things as businesses go. A couple of years is a long time. Who knows what market changes has occurred? So after you've taken a good look at your plan and you've done the measure of the financial damages that may have happened, it's time to think about what kind of funding you're going to need in order to rebuild, which is why you go to your business plan to try and figure out how to make it done. And there's lots of different places that you might find that financial assistance. Some of them tried and true classics, the Small Business Association, maybe a business line of credit. Of course, friends and family is always a possibility as well. Once you have assessed the damage, revisited your business plan, figured out the funding that you needed, now it's time to put a timeline together, because it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to be like when we shut down, it's going to be how we build back. And that's going to take a measured approach. And that means you need to pull out your milestones and your calendar on how you're going to reopen. Finally, when you're all done with that, and let's just say you're on your way to reopening your business, make a contingency plan. There's no time like after an emergency to figure out what you needed to have in case of an emergency. We'll put that aside. We don't want to necessarily think about it, but it is time to put together a new contingency plan. Some small steps, but we're back, and let's make it successful.
Thanks, Andrew. For more ways on helping grow your business, check out Tacoma's Community and Economic Development Program at makeittacoma.com. When Business Matters continues, we learn about a new family-owned business featuring boutique quality goods and community involvement under one roof. Welcome back. Next up is LaKecia Farmer with Parable, a new business in town that specializes in plants, new and used books, records, artists and crafts, and events. LaKecia is part of three owners of this family-run business that's new to the McKinley Hill Business District, actually the top of that district with a fabulous view. Welcome, LaKecia.
Hi, nice to be here.
So tell us about Parable. I mean, I've had some insight into it, and it looks like an amazing new business for Tacoma.
Yeah, I would say first it's a community space, and then we also sell books, records, plants, artisan products like you mentioned. But yeah, it's family run and community run, Black women run. Yep.
So I know you have some themes to the products that you carry. Let's start with the books.
Yeah, the books. So, you know, a lot of bookstores, we specialize in Black and brown folks, women authors, LGBTQ authors. So kind of like specialized curated books.
That's fabulous. So you can come here to find books that are different from what you find at other bookstores.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just creates a welcoming space for everybody.
Yeah, we want to be as inclusive as possible. And so we start with our books, but it goes on to the arts, the crafts, the handmade products, so on and so forth.
Well, let's talk about the plants next, because whenever I'm reading books, I love it when I'm surrounded by plants.
Yeah, we hope to have that atmosphere for sure. I mean, plants give you life, breath, everything. So the green helps with community members coming in, and but they're also sellable. So
Right.
Yeah.
So I can come in and sit down, and if I enjoy this plant that I'm looking at while I'm reading a book, I can walk out with it.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as I pay.
Yeah.
And then what's really interesting to me is the range of artisans that sell goods there. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, most of the artisans are local, Pacific Northwest as well. So everywhere from as north of Seattle down to Portland, but we obviously want to specialize in Tacoma. And centering Tacoma artists, we have everything from 11-year-old making pot holders.
No kidding.
Yeah, they're T-Town pot holders. They're great. But all the way up to, you know, women, brown and Black folks making clothing, making candles, all sorts of things.
So a range of goods there, and I would imagine it's always evolving.
It is always evolving. We get new artists in probably every couple months.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep coming back.
Yes, absolutely.
And then there's events. I understand just last night you had an amazing event.
Yeah, we partnered with Green Drinks, talking about environmentalism, and we had eco vendors, so people who sell upcycled, recycled, things like that.
And tea?
And tea, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So upcycled, explain that to me.
So, like for example, my sister, who's one of the business owners, she'll go to like the Goodwill bins and get old jeans or things like that, but you know, lightly used. And then she'll take it and make pants out of all these jeans, or shirts or things like that.
So they have unique designs or different fabrics in them to
Absolutely.
make them unique and really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Now I understand you had some special guests at your event.
Yeah, we had Speaker of the House, Lori Jenkins.
That's
no big deal.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you've had the governor visit as well, so you're on the map.
Yeah, people are attracted to the business and want to see what's going on in McKinley. So,
but a lot of people just come in and check out the store, find a place to sit down and relax. You got chess and checkers.
yes, we have a lot of things to do that is not necessarily requires money. So we have chess, checkers, we have free open mics, we have, like events like that, but we also just have places where you can do your homework or work.
So that hence the community space.
Exactly.
So that means you're in the community. So tell us about the community, your location, your building.
Yeah, we're in the we're beneath the Porter Apartments,
Okay.
Which is a historic building, over
looks
100 years
beautiful.
old.
I've
Yeah.
seen the pictures, the brick and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Grit City did a wonderful tour of McKinley Hill if you want to watch that. But it's an older neighborhood, but it's a lot of families, a lot of families.
And for people who aren't familiar with the McKinley Business District, it's way up on the hill. If you're looking from downtown Tacoma, you look up and you see Stanley and Seaforts, and then you.
Yeah, so you drive up from the dome and boom, you're on the hill, and you have lots of good businesses, Dusty's, Top of Tacoma, Fergie's, and then us.
And you have an amazing view looking out there.
Yeah, I love to walk around the neighborhood, and you can see, if you go couple blocks east, you can see the mountain.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible. So one of the things I love about having you on this show today is this is the first show we've done since the pandemic started. And we talked earlier about the resilience of Tacoma businesses, but you're an example of a business that started during the pandemic. Tell me, I mean, there's a founding story here I would love to hear.
Yeah, I am. Me and my sister and cousin have always wanted to start a business, but it was more about the community. So we were walking around the neighborhood during the pandemic. You know, a lot of people go out walking, and we saw this space, and we're like, wow, this space we could see our grandma like sipping tea, we could see children running around, and we're like, we gotta do it. But first, we had to raise the funds. So we started at markets, farmers markets, selling books and plants that we propagated ourselves sometimes, and books that from my own personal collection. And yeah, we just raised the funds, and we also had help from the Chamber of Commerce, Kiva Loan.
This is fascinating to me.
Yeah.
That's a form of crowdsourcing?
Yeah, we crowdfunded $10,000.
No kidding.
And we get it as a loan, but it's 0% interest. So we pay it back, and the people who crowdfunded get their money back.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so this is the Tacoma Pierce County Chamber of Commerce.
Through Spaceworks.
Through Spaceworks,
Yeah.
which are established organizations within the community. And they're all about helping businesses like yours start up and be successful.
Right, even during the pandemic.
Yeah, so it shows it's working.
Yeah, it is.
And so I actually was looking at your website and I saw a link if you want to donate. And so that's what that's about in part.
Yeah,
right?
yep.
And that's a big part of why you're up and running?
Yeah, it is a huge part of what, I mean, we did the markets, we did the loan, but a lot of it also was just crowdfunding from friends and family.
Okay.
So
actual donations.
like actual donations that we didn't have to pay back. Yeah. And a lot of people from the neighborhood actually donated it too.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So you went out and you raised the capital.
Yes.
You secured a lease and you opened your business. I'm sure from there everything's been starry and bright and amazing, right?
Yeah, we've had some ups and downs, but we're rocking and rolling still.
That's great.
Yeah, there's so many things that is difficult of being a business owner. We have to, make sure that the amount of money that comes in will sustain us as a business. And so, we're new to this, at least me and my cousin. My sister has had her own business for about 7 years. So we had at least a little bit of knowledge about how to run a business. But yeah, the community aspect was a little bit difficult, only because of the pandemic.
You're right.
But once we started, man, Eastside and McKinley, they just swarmed us and helped us, and we live in the neighborhood too, so I feel like it was the respect and need that was wanted in the district.
So you were embraced by the community.
Yeah.
They showed up.
Yep.
They became customers.
Yep.
And they let you know that they supported you, and some of them even helped fund it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I would imagine you have 3 owners, you're all related.
Yes.
And that's a great story in itself.
Yeah.
There must have been a lot of elbow grease that went into this.
Oh, yeah.
You had to go in and set things up and...
Yeah, I mean, but the fun thing is, my cousin, we're from Spokane, and so my cousin moved here like 20 years ago. Then me and my sister followed about 7 or 8 years ago. And we were in like this 1-bedroom apartment in Stadium District. And now we're in McKinley, and I live with my cousin, and my sister lived with us too, but recently just moved out. So we live together, we work together, we know each other's, what gets on each other's nerves, so we'll leave each other alone a little bit.
And you're part of this community.
And we're part of the community, yeah.
That's such a great story. It makes me proud to be part of Tacoma.
Yeah.
So tell me, what are you looking forward to in the future? What is the next phase of your business development?
Yeah, so when we first started out, we had 3 phases. One is like the markets, which I mentioned, what we're going to be doing. And then the second was, the business that we have right now. And then the third phase is selling tea. We really want people to be able to come in, get their tea, read a book, look at plants, etc.
And then buy some tea.
And then buy some tea. Yes.
Well, I can hardly wait because
Yeah.
I love tea.
Yeah.
And I would love to continue talking with you because this is such a great story,
Thank
but
you.
we're out of time. LaKecia,
Okay.
thank you for being with us today on Business
Yeah,
Matters.
thank you for having me.
That's it for Business Matters. Join me next time for more insight into the Tacoma business scene. See you then.